Hello everyone, and welcome back to another cartography lecture video. And in this lecture video, I want to wrap up our discussion on choropleth mapping, talking about how we make color ramps and color palettes. So up to this point, we've been dealing with colors in sort of the abstract sense in terms of how they're generated by a computer or ink, and how we communicate color to a computer. And then we talked about color palettes in choropleth mapping, but we didn't really talk about how we make them. We just sort of use broad statements like you increase saturation or you decrease contrast, right? But we didn't talk about how you make them. Now, luckily for us, we live in the age of computers, and so figuring out the technical calculations in terms of what different values you put into your communication up here, we don't actually have to do that. A lot of that work has been done for us, and there's a lot of pre-generated resources for generating color palettes that are going to have the best possible distinction between the different classes that you could possibly get based on research and mathematics, which are far outside the scope of this course. So what I want to do in this video is I actually want to not so much write on our notes here as to just show you a couple of resources that are built into ArcGIS Pro and something called Color Brewer that are really useful for generating color palettes and of different size steps. So let's go ahead and start off by talking about ArcGIS Pro. So in ArcGIS Pro, when you're dealing with classified data, what you can do here is you can go into your color scheme, and I'm going to bring this over here. Right, you can go into your color scheme, and if you click the drop-down box, what you'll get is you'll have the ability to make your color scheme however you would like. Now you can, what I'm doing right now is showing you how you can edit the colors manually, but if you change the number of classes, and then you click a drop-down, right, you'll see that you have all of these color ramps. So you have sequential color ramps. And then if we scroll farther down and farther up, you'll see that if we switch to 7 or 5, change the number of colors, right, you'll see that we get different options. And if we click show all, right, you'll see that we get all kinds of color ramps. So we have some that would be qualitative. We have all different kinds of color ramps. So we have some right here that these would be your divergent. Right, so what I'm trying to show you here is that under color scheme, you have a lot of very useful built-in color ramps that you can just bring right over and use without any issue. So that's one resource, is going to be just the built-in color schemes. Another really useful resource is going to be what's called Color Brewer. So if I try to make this a little bit bigger so that we take up all of the screen here. Okay, so Color Brewer, or colorbrewer2.org, is a website that was generated by Cynthia Brewer and is a remarkable resource for cartographic colors. And basically what this one will let us do is this gives us a lot of different options so we can hone in on a particular color palette. And the nice thing about Color Brewer is that it's not in ArcGIS Pro, so we actually get the values very easily, and we can actually export them to use in other software packages, and other even programming packages will allow us to import Color Brewer. And so what we have here is we have the number of classes, so we can say make a 7 class sequential. And then what you'll know is with sequential, right, we can choose, you can see just like we talked about in the lecture videos, right, we start with a high value, high value, high saturation, and then we sequentially go decreasing value, increasing saturation, and then we end up with our color scheme here. And so we have all these options for sequential. We have all of these options for diverging, again, where we start in the middle with our lowest saturation, highest value, and then we go towards both extremes in different hues, increasing saturation and decreasing value. And then we have our qualitative options here, which again, dealing primarily with just the hues themselves. So the other nice thing about Color Brewer is that it gives us options for print-friendly, colorblind friendly. So this is going to deal with the issues that we'll talk about in the next video when we talk about how do we actually choose colors. But you can see that Color Brewer gives us these options to sort of check boxes in terms of dealing with things like printing and accessibility. So hopefully this made sense. I know it's a slightly shorter video, but again, just to recap, I strongly recommend when you're picking colors that you don't just randomly generate them, that you try to either use built-in color ramps from ArcGIS Pro, or my personal opinion would be to always try to use Color Brewer, just because it does let you have a lot more control over what you're doing, and you can export and keep these color ramps for use across multiple maps much easier. So hopefully this makes sense, and as always, if you have any questions, please reach out.